Good afternoon and welcome to our presentation today. My name is David Shucker. I am Marketing Coordinator for Schmersal in the US. And before we begin our presentation today on safety light curtains, I just wanted to do a little bit of housekeeping. In the GoToWebinar environment, you should be able to find a couple of handouts if you want to take some time and download those. Throughout the entire presentation, if you have any questions, you can find a questions box and you can just type your questions in there. We should have some time at the end of the presentation for to answer any questions that you may have, or I may just interrupt the presentation if there's something rather pertinent if you have it. So feel free to type in questions at any point during the presentation. And if you have any audio or other issues, please just refresh your screen. And just a reminder, we are recording this session. So if you do have any issues, we will be sending out a recording of this session. So without any further ado, today's session is on safety light curtains, and our presenter today is Craig Menard. He is a regional sales manager for Schmersal USA. He has been with the company for what, 5-6 years now?
Almost 12.
12. Wow, I was underestimating. It's been that 12 years went by really quick.
Yes,
so Craig,
it did.
Take it away.
Thanks, David, and thanks everyone for jumping on. I know we're all busy, and so we really appreciate your time here for the next hour or so. A lot of stuff to get through, but I promise to save some time for questions at the end. I know those are important. And then, like David said, any questions that maybe that we can't quite get to due to time, I promise to respond to those. Okay, but let's dive right into it because we do have a ton to get to. All right, so our agenda today. With safety light curtains, we're going to talk about operation principles and terminology. Sometimes the terminology when it gets to the light curtain stuff can get confusing. There is quite a bit to figure out, so we're going to go through a bunch of it. We'll talk about typical applications that we see out in the field. We'll do application information. This is a pretty important part, like maybe a questions checklist or common questions to qualify an application, so we're getting the right light curtain for our application. It's important. We have in here some maintenance tasks that we suggest that you do when you do implement these light curtains. We'll take some time to go through the light curtain functions, muting, blanking. Sometimes those two can get confusing, as well as multiscan, the cycle operation mode or cyclical operation, and double reset. So we'll go through all those so that you're well equipped. And then towards the end, we'll go through an overview of the Schmersal light curtain series and what we have to offer. Okay, our SLC 440 COM and 440. And our muting light curtains, the SLC 445. So we'll dive into those. And lastly, we'll offer some resources that we have at Schmersal to help you out. So that's our agenda. We're going to buzz through all this stuff in the next hour. All right, basic functions of a light curtain. Safety light curtains are a paired emitter and receiver. You'll see in our part numbers, there's an ER for emitter receiver. They come as a team. The emitter sends an infrared beam. We put in here not visible, although in our photo here, obviously you can see the red beams. And in the fine print, we tell you when you implement these light curtains, you won't see those red beams. But they're sensed by the receiver, validating that the beams have not been interrupted. Okay, once an opaque object enters the beams are interrupted, and our redundant safety circuit is disabled, causing the hazardous process to come to a halt within milliseconds, which is really important. We'll talk further here about safe distances when we start and the need for calculations when we're installing these light curtains and how to install them properly. We just have a quick note here. It's the non-separating guarding, the easiest way to understand separating and non-separating, the two types of guarding. separating, there's something there to separate the operator from the hazard. Okay, there's a gate, there's a hood, there's a fence, there's something separating. And non-separating, as you can see here, if a projectile flew out of a machine, those beams are not going to stop it. So it's non-separating, which does not mitigate or reduce the severity of the hazard that's in behind it. It only reduces the risk by stopping the hazard before it can be reached. So that's our main goal with these. Okay. We pulled together some standards that are important. Again, we're not going to go through the standards, obviously, but just to know when you get into light curtains and applications of light curtains installation, you should have some of these in mind. We've grouped them together. So the EN 61496-1 and 2, safety of machinery, you can see it's all about electrosensitive protective equipment. Sometimes you'll see this AOPDs. It's just another term for light curtains and like products. And it stands for active optoelectronic protective devices. Okay. The next two here, ISO 13849-1 and IEC 61508. ISO 13849, the safety of machinery and the related parts for the control system, and functional safety of electrical, electronic programming, safety related systems. So general requirements there. Again, all things that need to be considered when you're using light curtains. The last two here, ISO 13855 and ISO 13857, the safety of machinery. The first one, positioning of safety guards with respect to the approach speeds. And again, I mentioned it briefly, but we're going to get into what's entailed there when we talk about approach speeds, and the one below it, safe distances, when we start installing these light curtains. So again, just some standards to keep in mind. There are two types of light curtains. There's type 2 and type 4. We'll talk to a lot about risk assessments. Again, that's usually the starting point for where we want to go, and the risk assessment will kind of guide us in one way or another. In the two boxes, you'll see type 2 features a periodic self-test, which may experience failures in between test cycles, whereas the type 4 is a feature, they active self-test. It's happening throughout the entire process, the entire operation, and they have a high tolerance to detect these faults. Okay, so type 2, usually used in your lower risk situations, good up to SIL 2 performance level C. And again, you'll see these are a lower cost solution just because of the types of applications they're used in. And then your type 4, typically used in your high risk applications, probably the most that we would see in the field, obviously. And they meet requirements up to SIL level 3 and performance level E. So that's the difference there. We have some typical applications, and again, these lists could be real long, but just to give you a better understanding. So for point of operation, we kind of have an example here on the left, the photograph on the left, but power-driven machines, power presses, folding or brake presses, filter presses, punching machines, injection molding, a lot of operator interface with this type of thing. These presses where you see people having to put a product in and make sure that the press is actually disabled while they're loading and unloading product. Okay. But we also see these light curtains used in perimeter guarding, a lot in these big robot cells, welding booths, print machines, material handling equipment, palletizers, and packaging equipment. So you'll see in the picture on the right, we have actually a safety light grid and a safety light curtain. And again, we're going to talk about safe distances and how to calculate that, and what goes into actually deciding what can be used in these types of cells and situations. Okay, some terminology. So again, like I said in the beginning, it can get confusing, obviously. The three types we have here, starting on the far left, a single beam system, or we call it a safety light beam. Again, detecting larger objects, using for perimeter guarding, essentially. But sometimes that's a perfect solution for your application. And again, it would be a lower cost solution. And then the one in the middle, safety light grids, typically used to detect bodies because it's just a 2, 3, or a 4 beam system. You can see the big spaces between beams because of the larger objects that it's detecting. And then our safety light curtains are our multiple beam array system, which you see on the far right. This detects fingers, hands. So again, then we get into the resolution stuff we're going to talk about in the next couple slides. But you can see that there is 3 different sets here that we break it out to. Resolution. So we all hear, someone asks the question, well, what do you need for resolution? This is just the distance between each beam, okay? And so this is actually a really good illustration here of the 3 that we offer with regards to our safety light curtains. 14 millimeters, we call this finger protection. Obviously, you can see that they couldn't even get the tip of their finger past it because of the tightness of the beams together. A little bigger, the 30 millimeter resolution for we call hand protection. But again, finger might make it through, but you get up by the knuckles and you're going to hit it. And then the 35 to 40 millimeter that detects arms. Again, you can kind of see where we're getting to an average person. Beyond that, the 50 millimeter or greater, that's getting into your leg body detection, larger objects, like we saw with the safety light grid there. There's with the bigger gaps. So again, a real good illustration there of just what you're looking at, because again, these beams are infrared. You don't see them necessarily, but to get an idea of how tight they are. More terminology. So your protective field. As you can see here in the reddish pinkish, that's our protection field. And again, it's just your protection height, which is not necessarily the height of the sticks or the emitter receiver, but the actual protection height. So from the bottom beam to the top beam, okay? And then times by the range. And the range is just the distance between your emitter receiver. Okay, so times those both together, you get your protection field, your entire protection in your active area. Okay, but just height and range. It's good to know, good stuff to remember. Really important when we start implementing and installing light curtains that, so in this particular illustration we have here, the light blue is showing you where the actual hazard is and just how these are incorrectly going to be used or insufficient, I could say. There's plenty of opportunity here for someone to stick their hand over or under the protective beam or the protective field size. Or around it for that matter. So in a case like this, if this is what we have to use for light curtains, then we may have to add additional guarding, okay? Just to make sure that there's no areas to get around and that you're always, to get to the hazardous area, you have to go through that protective field, okay? Okay, safety distance. We're not going to have a test on this formula. However, it's good to see just if you were to have someone come or if you were to do a safe distance calculation before applying your light curtains, just to see what goes into it, okay? And so as you can see here, when someone interrupts those beams, we want to find the safe distance. S equals the 2,000 millimeters per second times T, which is the total reaction time, okay, of the machine to slow down and get to a non-hazardous state, the reaction time of the safeguards, blah, 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 et cetera, but it's all important for the time, okay, the total reaction time. And then you can see the rest of the formula. The D is the resolution of the safety light curtain, okay, 14 mil, like we talked about, finger protection, or is it 30, is it hand protection? Again, so just it's good to see what goes into, if you had someone to come out and do a stop time analysis on your machine and what they would use to find that minimum safe distance to install your light curtains. Okay, after we've decided that we're using light curtains, it's the best for our application. We want to ask some questions. Maybe we're asking ourselves these questions. Maybe we're asking others these questions to try and narrow down exactly which light curtains to use. We've already talked about the different resolutions, the different heights and ranges. So there's a number of different opportunities here when it comes to light curtains. Is it a single beam? Is it a safety light grid? So we've just put together some questions here that are really good reminders or good questions to ask to try and nail down exactly what you need. Okay, so have you or someone else performed a risk assessment or a stop time analysis on the machine? Again, everything for us starts with that risk assessment, to identify the hazards and then to make sure that we're implementing our light curtains in the correct manner. What are the hazards that present on the machine and the typical access that's required by operators? Again, really important. Operators have to interact with this equipment. We need to make sure that we know what the hurdles are for them. Okay. What is the environment the light curtains will be in? Another really important question. Is there going to be dust buildup? Are they pressure washed? Is there moisture? Cleaning chemicals? Do we have the proper IP rating? Again, we need to know exactly what they're going into. So we don't have false nuisance trips of these light curtains because of something that we've overlooked. How far apart are the emitter and receiver, right? So what's our range? You'll see in later slides that, maybe our typical range is 10 meters. Well, we need to go beyond that. So do we have to look for high range? Again, another important question to ask before you get into the installation process. What heights need to be guarded? Again, not what height light curtain do we need, but what height do we need to be guarded? We've already discussed that the height of the actual emitter and receiver might not be the area that's guarded, okay? Will the light curtain simply be performing an on-off function? This is, again, could be really important. You don't want to order and purchase super expensive light curtains and you don't need the functions that you're given on them. So a good right off the bat to ask, how are these going to be used? Is it just simple on off? Are we going to need to mute something, blank something? It'll lead you in different directions. So it's a good question to ask. And I kind of covered these already, but do you need to blank out an area of the light curtain? Is there a fixed product or a fixed element that's going to be blocking them, and maybe originally you thought, hey, I can't use a light curtain because this is going to be here. Well, maybe we can blank out that certain area and still use light curtains. And lastly, we have, do the light curtains, will they require to be muted? We'll get into exactly what muting is, but again, we need to go down a certain path as far as the light curtain goes if we need to mute, okay? I talked in the beginning about just some suggestions for maintenance. We have here some regular inspections and then some maybe 6-month inspections that we can do. A regular visual inspection and functional test, okay? Important, do the components have visible damage? And again, if we're inspecting these every now and again to see, you can see if the actual emitter receiver has been damaged, or is there something wrong with the lens that could impact just how it's responding. The optics cover not scratched or soiled, and this might be something that you're going to have to do, that just clean that area every once in a while, okay? Hazardous machinery parts can only be accessed by passing through the detection zone of the AOPD. So we talked about that one slide where people could get their arms over, under, around. Just another check. Has something moved? Have we moved a hard guard? Have we altered something that might change that? The staff remains within the detection area when works are conducted on hazardous machinery parts, okay? Again, these are all just good regular inspections that we can do. Don't take a lot of time, and they could help us down the road, or help us from not having a problem down the road. Safety distance of the application exceeding the mathematically one that was calculated at the beginning. We talked about our safety distance. You know, has somebody come in and done work on that machine and moved it? And now all of a sudden, these light curtains are too close. So all things that we can regularly inspect. Half yearly inspection, again, it's a suggestion. The following items could be checked every 6 months, or if a machine setting has changed. Again, we talked about sometimes these machines have to move, or parts of them have to move, or the hard guarding moves. Does the machine stop, and does it inhibit any safety function? No machine modification or connection change, which affects the safety system, has taken place. So again, the control portion. Has anything changed that would change how the safety system functions? The outputs of the AOPD are correctly connected to the machine. Okay, so now we're diving in maybe to the guts of it to make sure that everything's connected properly. The total response time on the machine does not exceed the response time calculated during commissioning. Again, so has anything changed to change our response time of that machine? So once those beams are interrupted, are we still good? We don't get to the hazard when it's still in a hazardous speed or a hazardous state. And then again, it's always good to check cables, connectors, caps, all that stuff to make sure that they're in perfect working condition. Okay, muting, we've touched on it, but what is muting? So it's the function that temporarily turns off the protected field. Okay, so temporarily it'll turn everything off to allow product to go in and out. I'm going to show you a quick video here to show you kind of what I'm talking about. But what you're going to see is we add additional sensors in the front and the rear, and it's almost going to take like a picture on the way in and a picture on the way out and make sure nothing is out of the ordinary. So we'll just watch this quick video to see and just watch how it affects the different sensors and the different beams as it goes through. So you can see how it's affecting, it's hitting sensor 1, sensor 2, then the light curtains, then sensor 1, sensor 2 on the way out. Everything is the same on the way in as it is on the way out. So after the temporary suspension, it reestablishes the light curtain back to its. So again, if someone tried to walk through there, they wouldn't be able to break the beams in that order, in that sequence, and therefore the light curtain would shut off and not allow that hazardous motion in behind to still be moving. Oftentimes when we're talking about light curtains, that muting and blanking, they can be a bit confusing, and sometimes you think one is the other, but the difference is blanking totally disables some of the protective field. So in our case, 2 beams can be totally blanked out. So they're, let's just say you had a conveyor or something that is constant, it never moves. It's in the field of that, in the protective field of that light curtain. Then you would blank out those 2 beams, everything above it, below it, all those beams are active. So if anything was to go through there, a finger, a hand, it would trip the light curtain. Fixed blanking is you blank out those 2 beams or that 1 beam, and it's constant. It's that beam always, forever. Floating blanking means those same beams can move up and down throughout the active area of the light curtain as long as it's the same size, as long as it's the 1 or the 2 beams. I had an example of this one time with big heavy duty cable, and the spool was on one side and the cable went right through the light curtain, and so it would have broken the beams. It was big enough that it would break the beams. And as you can imagine, as that spool gets smaller and smaller and smaller, as it unravels and unravels, where it is inside, where that particular cable is inside the beam, inside the area, the fixed area of the light curtain, it moves. It went down, it went down, it went down until it was emptied, and then it would start over again. So we had floating blanking added, and it could understand that there was movement for the blanking. Hopefully that makes sense. Another neat application that sometimes maybe you might think, oh, well, I'm not sure we can use light curtains here because, you know, wood chips are flying. I don't want nuisance trips, things of that nature. We have a multi-scan option here where it provides multiple evaluations of the protective field. So it allows small material and debris. We have actually another video of like steam going through it and it's not tripping it. And here we have an insect could pass through it, etc. And not trip it just because it's constantly checking it and checking it and checking it. Another quick video just to show you exactly how that function works. Obviously, he's going to trip the light curtain, but the smaller or the steam or whatever, because of the quick checks, it's not going to trip it. Okay. So again, sometimes you might think, oh, I'm not sure if we can use it here. We may have to put a fence up because I don't want those tripping, and that multi-scan is a great option. Cyclical operation, also known as presence sensing device initiation, allows the light curtain to be used as a machine control device. Okay, the programming of the machine expects the protection field to be interrupted between machine cycles. Again, I have a video here, but the proper cycle, it's going to be fine. Okay. He's not putting his hands through there when that press is activated. If he tries to say, oh, I got to grab that, it's not going to allow. It'll stop the machine and it'll need to be restarted. Again, that's cyclical operation. The last function we have is double reset. And again, this has become really common with these large robot cells. You're seeing now cells sometimes that have multiple robots in them, so they're large cells. And maybe they have one opening where they have a light curtain. You know, operators need to go in there, maybe a forklift needs to go in there. But there's room inside that cell for somebody to get lost. And what I mean by that is they could be in there fixing or working on something, but not be seen by a passerby. And so what we don't want to happen is somebody in there, they've obviously broken the light curtains, okay? They've stopped the hazardous process while they're working. We wouldn't want someone to be able to walk by and S1 is your reset button. Somebody says, oh, I wonder why this isn't working. You know, maybe it was tripped somehow, or and reset it and put that operator in a very vulnerable position. So what double reset does is it requires you, after the light curtains are broken, to reset this function. You have to hit S2, which is inside the hazardous area. You have to leave that area, so that light curtain has to see you break those beams, and then hit S1 or restart 1 outside. This is all has to be done within a time limit. Typically this is within 60 seconds, okay? So hit reset 2, curtain see you leave, hit reset 1. Now you can activate your light curtains, you can reactivate your system, okay? Again, we're seeing more and more of this with these larger robot cells and larger, just in general, larger workstations and work cells, okay? Okay, now we're going to go over Schmersal's offering of safety light curtains, okay? Safety light beams, we talked about this in an earlier slide, but sometimes this is all you need. Sometimes it's a perimeter application, and it's detecting something large. Maybe it's a forklift, and if you can put it in the right position, maybe it's all you need. And again, it's a cost savings from a light curtain. But you still, it's you type 2 or type 4, performance level E up to performance level E or still level 3. The same, you know, housing, the same LED status end cap that you know, we're really known for, but that compact design, it's all and rugged and durable. you can see here we have a high range version up to 75 meters with the SLB 440s. You can see the temperature ratings that come, and we do have a version with a heater for outdoor applications. On the right, we like to add this whenever we can, and you can get this off if you're on our website, you went onto the data sheet, but it's an ordering code. It's how we break down our number. It's how we break down our part number. So SLB 2 or 4, depending on if you need type 2 or type 4. And then your beam coating is your next. Your connection is at M12 or M12 with cable. Do you need standard range? Do you need high range? And then do you need the integrated heater? So all that is built in your part number. Okay, so that's just a good reminder to show in these slides, and I show them with the other light curtain offerings as well. So our SLC and SLG 440 COM, this is our low cost option, but it strips down all the functions that we just talked about. So no blanking, no muting, no double reset. This is, when we talked about those questions earlier, is this going to be an on-off application? This is your go-to one. Type 4, so up to PLE, still level 3, still same IP67 housing. We'll get into later how we do have an option for IP69 if needed. End cap to end cap detection, so minimal dead zones, all the things that make the Schmersal curtains really what they are. But that LED status end cap, you can see the bottom left pictures, that bright indicator to tell you the status of the light curtains. You still get these on the COM version, but because of the minimal functions, it's a reduced cost. It's a great option for those. The other thing it does offer is the alignment aid upon startup, which, again, as we all know, that getting that alignment initially is one of the big hurdles. Once we get that, then we're cooking. So that alignment aid is still there upon startup. Again, on the right-hand side, it's the breakdown of the part number. Okay, the protection height we talked about, all in millimeters. So they go up in 80 millimeter increments, which is a little over 3 inches. Again, good to know if if you were to call Schmersal, you need a light curtain, you need a 490. Well, we don't have that, but we have the next one. We have a 410. Can you use that? It's a 3-inch difference. Resolution, we talked about the 14 mil, 30 mil, and 35. You can see the 14 mil brings the range up to or down to 7 meters from the 10 meters that you get with the 30 mil resolution. And then the SLG 440 comms at the bottom there, and that's your 2 or 3 or 4 beam system. That's, again, we talk about perimeter guarding. It's for full body protection. That's what we would look into if that's what we're trying to accomplish on that. The next, we would move to what I would consider our catch-all, and the bulk of our applications we see, this is what we would use. The SLC and SLG 440s. Again, you can read all the same type 4 PLE, but now we're getting into, we're able to program that blanking, the double reset, beam coding, external device monitoring, all that can be done. You can kind of see in this the video on the picture in the bottom left, but he has the programming cable, which we sell separately, but it's so simple. It's you attach that to the light curtains and you literally toggle through. It's a single push button toggle switch. You toggle through all the programs, hold it down for 3 seconds to activate whatever ones that you need. So again, super easy to program, and multiple programs can run at once. Again, you still get your end cap, so you get that visual from across the plant. I can't tell you how many times people have said that saved them downtime. Just somebody maybe not meaning to had broken the beams or interrupted the light curtain and walked away, and somebody saw that it was red and was able to go and reset the system. Now you get that 7-segment display where you see that P for programming. It's going to give you alignment aid in there. It's going to give you some error statuses that you can use for troubleshooting. So again, the 440 has a ton that comes already programmed in it. So again, on the right-hand side, we see the different protection heights and resolutions for the SLC. And then we see the range and the distance between the beams, the top and bottom beams for the safety light grid. Okay. Last but certainly not least, our SLC 445. Anytime you have to do a muting function, this is the light curtain that you need. It also has the cyclic operation, that multiscan that we showed, and it still has your blanking, your double reset. So it just has the addition of all the muting functions that you need. Again, programmed via the push button. Still have the LED status end caps that we're known for. 7-segment display to give you all kinds of information. Again, but this, when we talk muting, this is where we go, the SLC 445. Again, on the right, just the operating code, or not the operating, the ordering codes. You can at least get a breakdown of what the part number means and what it's referring to, okay? And again, all this on the website or tech briefs and things like that we'll talk about later, but all that stuff we can get to you easily, so you can run through your checklist of what you need. I've already talked about most of these features, but again, sets us apart in some ways. This LED end cap, like I said, I've had a lot of customers explain just how that's helped them in their plant, be able to see that from across the room. It is really bright, and it gives you that status of what's going on with your light curtains. So you see on the right, the picture on the right is your 7-segment display. It's going to give you a bunch of information. What it's on right now is your alignment aid. So that 3 means that that's at the best it can be at. As you soft adjust or just slightly move your light curtains, you'll see those maybe drop out and go down to 2 or even 1 line. What you want to get is obviously the optimum alignment for your light curtains. It's when they're working the best. So that alignment tool comes up as soon as you power those light curtains up. That alignment display is in setup mode right away. You see I have down here the display, the LEDs and what they mean, just the OSSD's on or off. Yellow means it's all the system is ready for a reset. It just needs to be restarted. Your signal reception, or if it's blanking, all that stuff you can get just from the status indication on the top of your light curtains. Briefly discuss this, but the mechanical design of the Schmersal light curtains. This is a really good illustration here. You'll see ours is the 1-piece extruded reinforced housing, and then the lens is kind of slid in on the front, where the one beside it, in a lot of cases, is a 3-sided design with the lens being the 4th side. So with ours, it's really robust, not a lot of torsion and bending, and you really notice that when you get into the higher heights. So your 5-foot emitter and receiver, you can really tell there's not a lot of torsion or bending there. They're very robust for how small they are. That's the other part, is we can keep a compact design. You can see there it's 28 millimeters by 33, and much lighter, while still maintaining that extreme robust design. So again, really worth showing you that. Again, we've talked about a few of the accessories, but you get to see them here. The IP69 housing for the SLC 440 and 440 COM. Again, a food application where it's washed down, pharmaceutical stuff, maybe washed down, or chemical. and you need to protect them, this housing is remarkable for that. Vibration dampeners. We have deflection mirrors. Again, it's always good to note that if you get into using deflection mirrors, it reduces your range. So it's a good rule of thumb is if you add a mirror, you lose 10% of your range. But again, really, if you have an L-shaped application to use one set of light curtains, sometimes it's a great fit for those applications. You see we have mounting posts available. Two here in the yellow, these protective housing. So you put the emitter receiver inside that housing. Again, forklift traffic or something that there's a chance that it might not be seen. It gives it that added protection. And then I talked about our muting kits, or our plug and play, so to speak. And this is a good indication on the far right here of all our muting sensors, the arms, the sensors, the kit comes all together, your muting module. And so it really is plug and play. And again, if you get into that type of application, get with our application engineers and they can make sure that you're getting the easiest solution for installation, but really is a really good product. Yeah, especially obviously if you're into the muting, if you know you have a muting application. Okay, fairly recently, we introduced our SLC Assist app. So this is our Bluetooth capabilities for our light curtains. And it's remarkable. It's amazing. It's real-time information about your light curtains at your fingertips. It works for all your smartphones and tablets. You see down here, we have it for Apple, Android, whatever. The picture on the left is just how you would see it in your app store or wherever you need to download from. Once you've downloaded it, the picture on your right is what you would see on your phone. I'm gonna go into a bunch of detail of this, but some of the things that you'll see is your operating mode, your beam signal level. So again, your alignment. It's just another way to make sure that your alignment is exactly how you want it to be. Because again, slightly out of alignment can cause big problems when it comes to light curtains. So it's just another resource for you to have for that beam signal level. The status of your OSSDs, the status of your protective field. Are any of your beams being interrupted? Which beams are being interrupted? You can see that in real time. Your number of OSSD switches, supply voltage, operating time. Maybe you have a maintenance schedule where every 100 hours we need to wipe these light curtains down. It's a dusty environment, and we find that after that long, it's just good practice to get a damp cloth and wipe the lenses of these down so they're working, the best that they can. So all this stuff, all this information is right at your fingertips, like I said, on the SLC Assist app. So once you get the app, you click on it, you open it up, this is what you would see. This first picture on the left-hand side shows all the light curtains that are in that Bluetooth range, okay? As we know, some machines have multiple light curtains on them. So maybe it had 3 on it. So 3 would show up, you'd see your strength or your level, your Bluetooth signal level would be on the right-hand side. Right-hand picture, one of the first things you would want to do is rename these devices, whatever it is, in-feed, conveyor, wherever those light curtains are, so that you're not confusing which light curtain you're looking at. But all that can be done simple as soon as you open that app. Okay, your device configuration is all at your fingertips as well. So what are we using here? Do we have our blanking on? Do we have floating blanking, fixed blanking, beam coding, flip display? All that, you can see you'll have check marks so that you'll know exactly what's going on. Maybe you think you had something programmed in and it's not programmed in, or it didn't save. You can go onto your app and see if it's, rather than having to do your programming cable right away, just go to your app, boom, you can see right away, real time. Flip display we haven't talked about, but it's a good one. Let's just say you had to mount your light curtains upside down. Maybe your wiring needs to come out the top. It just works better. Your 7-segment display, so you don't have to wrench your neck trying to look at it. You know, you just program in that flip display. Boom! As soon as your light curtains flip, it'll be correct for what your light curtains are. So that's we didn't talk about that function that can be added here. Again, but all this information shows up first page of your app. Probably the most important information is the display of your actual light curtain there. Is it green? Is it working? Is it red? Why is it red? Which beams are broken? But you can also see the 3 stars for your beam signal level. Okay, again, how's my alignment? OSSD status, your supply voltage. I talked about your OSC. How many times is that OSSD, the counter, how many times is it turned off, turned on? Operating time, again, we talked about potential maintenance. If you wanted to schedule it for, let's just say it's every 100 hours, 200 hours, you can see how long those light curtains have been operating, okay? Archiving information. I got a video I'm going to show that will just show you exactly how easy that is, but do you need to save some information? You know, do you need to email it to someone right from this? All that can be done quickly right from this app and from your phone or your tablet. Again, you're starting to see here a little bit in more detail the protective field beams. It'll even show you the beams that are blanked out or when it's muting. Blanking, where the blanking is, all that, again, just real-time status of what's going on with your light curtains. This can show you every single beam. So I know there's some light curtains out there that show the beam on the actual lens. Well, you can go on here. We have the end cap or the lens cap up top, the LED to show you. Now you can open it and see exactly what's going on with each and every beam. There's a beam counter to tell you how many beams are on your light curtains. All that is real time right at your fingertips again. This is just showing what it would look like on your app if you were to interrupt those beams. So you can see he's interrupting that set of beams. I'm going to show you this quick video. It's good to see exactly what I'm talking about and what it all looks like from his phone's perspective.
Hey, Craig, it doesn't think we have the sound on the video if you want to alternatively narrate what we're watching here.
Sorry?
So we don't have sound on the video playing, but if you want to narrate,
Tell me if it... Did you get it or no?
No, there's still no sound.
Okay, well, I'll kind of talk over it, but it's pretty self-explanatory, but thanks, David. Again, he's just showing the light curtains might be working with 1 star, however, you don't have your optimum beam strength. So again, it's all in real time. You can see your OSSD cycle counter and your operating time. We talked about possibly setting up maintenance schedules and that kind of thing based off this information. So errors, if they appear, you can click right to our operating instructions and go right to it right from the app, and it'll tell you what error you have, which again, troubleshooting wise is so valuable, right? Um, if you needed to email this to somebody, it's easy to just take the status, email it, and it can be saved. Okay, so sadly we couldn't get to all the audio, but again, you can see just how much information you get. The other thing that I wanted to make note of before I moved on is, and if you haven't done so, I suggest that you do this at some time. But if you were to download the app, you don't need light curtains to demo it to somebody or to have a look and see exactly what you get to see. Inside the app, there's a demo mode. And so download the app, open it up, go to demo mode, and it'll show you 6 different scenarios, all different, that you might come across had you had light curtains there. Again, if I know odd time I'm in front of a customer, I don't have my light curtains with me, but I want to show him this Bluetooth app. This demo mode it's really slick. And if any of you have trouble getting it, let me know, call me or whatever. I can walk you through real simple on how to pull it up and how to navigate through it. But again, it's amazing the amount of information that you can get from the app. Again, we talk about troubleshooting, downtime. It's so important. If you have somebody that's a 5-hour drive away, you can't just jump in your car and say, okay, I'll be there to see what's going on with your light curtains. Hey, open your app. What are you seeing? What's it saying? What's the error? Let me see all your beams. What's going on? Maybe they're dirty, and some of them you can see on your picture there that some of the beams are grayed out. Like it just needs to be cleaned. Maybe it's you have no stars when it comes to your alignment. You tell them, hey, just loosen it up a bit, fine adjust those emitter receiver until you get 3 stars, and then you're good to go. So again, too bad about the audio, but that's in a German accent. That's what he was saying. Okay, so some resources, some helpful things that are again at your fingertips whenever you need them. We have brochures specifically on the light curtains, light grids, light beams. On there, the electronic version on our website, you can always order if you need the hard copy. Ask your regional guy. Call David Schucker at marketing if you prefer to have the brochures. I suggest that you just call and get some. Again, tons of information jammed into these small brochures. One step further, tech briefs, 1 page, just jammed with information, plus ordering codes. We've talked about how I had those on the screen, but again, sometimes the part numbers can be daunting. So to have those ordering codes, and this is the height I need, this is the resolution I need, boom, boom, you can create your part number. So those tech briefs are real helpful. Our website, go on there, our online product catalog. We also have an online chat. If you need someone to help you, jump on there. Hey, I need help with this light curtain. They can steer you in the right direction. But again, data sheets, all that information on there. We're on social media. Who isn't? Platforms we're on right there: Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. Actually, it's X now, not Twitter. Facebook, X, YouTube, LinkedIn, Snapchat. Not going to show you these videos, but just a few examples of what we have on our YouTube channel. I do suggest if you are going to get light curtains, or if you have light curtains, the top right one, my colleague Steve Lang does an incredible job of showing different tips, a few different tips for alignment. You notice I've talked alignment a lot, but it can be, not all of our light curtains are 2 feet away. Let's be honest. So he's got some real cool tips, tricks, for quick, fast alignment. Again, so we have a ton of YouTube videos. Feel free to get on there and browse around, but they could help you through something. Okay, lastly, I got time. Lastly, we talked at length about stop time analysis, risk assessments, that type of thing. While our Technicum team, our engineering services group, headed up by Devin Murray. Quick plug, but just watch for a webinar that he'll do at the end of the month. Maybe David can elaborate a little bit on that. But our Technicum team is out there every day doing these stop time analysis, doing risk assessments on equipment and machines, collaborative robot risk analysis. Okay, these are all things that we're capable of doing if needed to bring a third party in. I also just put down here too the trainings that we do offer with Technicum, but you can see those. But more importantly, those top three, because they really go hand in hand with implementing and installing light curtains on your applications. But stop time analysis, risk assessments, and even your collaborative robot analysis. So I think I'm under time, so we do have time for a few questions.
Look at that.
David?
Well, thank you very much, Craig. We do have a couple questions in the questions field, and if you have any further questions, feel free to type them in. If we don't get to your question, we will respond to you offline in the next day or so. So, let's see, this one was just answered. Do you conduct on-site visits to help companies determine if a light curtain will work, and if so, which one?
Yeah, so again, we just discussed it, but it is again, and not to speak out of turn, because I know Devin probably goes through this type of thing in his webinars, but when you do have a third party come in, if you did have Technicum come in, then then you have that information. I'm sure, you get an electronic copy of it, you get a hard copy of it, but now you have documentation of what you've done, that you've done a stop time analysis, on the equipment, you've done a safe distance calculation to make sure that you have installed your light curtains correctly and they are in the right place. So yeah, good question.
In your light curtain designs, is the control reliability such that it meets guarding requirements of OSHA?
Yeah, Dave, I don't know if you know how to answer OSHA versus
yes, well,
ISO. And
I mean, ultimately, OSHA doesn't have specific regulations. It relies on consensus standards. And so at the very beginning, Craig, you mentioned several of the standards, the ISO 13849, which is the design of control structures, the performance levels, the safety integrity levels. So yeah, our light curtains are designed to meet performance levels and safety integrity levels. So that would be the.
It's yes though. I mean, yes. To answer the question, it's yes. Yeah. Thanks, David.
William wants to know. He doesn't see the SLC 445 demo in the app.
Oh, the muting one. And correct me if I'm wrong, David, but I don't think when it gets to muting, I don't think that the Bluetooth is in the 445.
Yes, that is correct.
Unless it just happened, but no, I know when they first did it.
The Bluetooth integration is only on the 440 COM and the 440.
440.
Mainly because the 445 has those additional functions of the muting, which gets very, very complicated to put into the app, but also the multiscan and the cyclic.
Right.
Will you be able to change blanking via the SLC Assist app?
No, because it's a safety function, you can't make the changes. I guess, you wouldn't necessarily want an operator walking by and simply being able to pull his phone out and say, I don't like that blanking app, or I don't like that function anymore, I'm going to turn it off. So no, it really is just, it's for information, not making actual function changes.
Okay. Well, it's just about top of the hour, so we're just going to wrap this up. Again, I want to thank you, Craig, for your time and presenting. I want to thank everyone for attending. I just want to let everybody know that the session was recorded, and we will be sending out a recording link either later today or tomorrow. There are some handouts that will be available that are in the GoToWebinar environment if you want to download those now. And once you leave, there will be a quick survey if you wouldn't mind answering just a couple of quick questions about the presentation today. And if you had some unanswered questions, we will get back to you offline in the next day or so. And if you have any further questions, Craig, you are always available.
100%. Yep, 100%.
And we will get you some contact information for Craig.
And important to note that, you know, all the regional guys have demos of this if you needed to see it or wanted to see it. But again, I suggest grabbing that app if you get a chance here even this afternoon, downloading it and just playing around with it and really understanding the amount of information that you get. But yeah, thanks, David.
Okay, thank you very much, Craig. Everybody, have a wonderful and safe day.